Welcome to Bajerski YouTube channel. It's a great day to talk about a fascinating subject that I've decided to go more into depth and detail without putting my book at too much risk. The book is The Power of Moldavite. So my name's Matt Bajerski and I've been working as a healer for many years now. And I had a practice here on the magical mountains of Pueblo. It's basically a beautiful whitewashed village, and I had a little shop in the village, and above the shop there was a little room that I converted into my practice. So basically I had a healing bed in one corner, and so it was in this side, and then here was a little table where I would do my spiritual work or psychic work, whatever you want to call it. It was just to try and attune to people and understand them. So prior to that, I was an auctioneer. So I left all that behind and I was organically brought to this field of work. I didn't want it, didn't ask for it, but it just came on my lap. So that's basically who I am. I'm an author of quite a few books now, two of them which are Diary of an Accidental Psychic, and the other one is Seeing the Invisible, this one here, which I'm just signing copies of. It's actually quite a good book for killing flies. Really good, and if you've got a really dodgy table, it balances nicely. I don't like to take my work too serious. I have no time for people who are like that. I like to have a good vibe. I like to have a straight head. I'd like to sniff out BS in others, and as well as my clients. So I take the approach of, I do have an open mind. I do believe my clients when they're saying things, but I do know that at times we all misinterpret things and we all want to believe in certain things, but my approach was very simplistic and to the point. So it sounds kind of, how could you possibly be a so-called psychic and be balanced? And there is something in that. I get when people say that. However, this is my life, this is my story, and I only share the truth. So today I'm going to share with you an experience about Moldavite that I don't believe is common at all. Therefore, if you're interested in Moldavite, you're probably still watching. If you're not, you'll have gone. So for those who are really interested in Moldavite and want to understand what Moldavite is, I'm going to share with you a phenomena which is so unusual that even to this day, I still don't know the answers to this particular phenomena. So the experience of a healer over the 2 decades, there are times when you work with crystals, and one such crystal is called Moldavite. The reason why we choose that crystal is because it's a pull to a certain frequency to the client, and the combination, the marriage of the client and the crystal can be sometimes so out of this world, so unusual, that there are no words in the English language to be able to explain to you. And that's why sometimes I struggle, because I can't find the words, because there are no words. There's no such words. We're limited. But I'm going to try and explain to you now what I noticed over the years. Moldavite was placed into my hand, and at that moment my body elevated from the floor. My feet were on the ground, but I felt that I was lifting off the floor. I was so blown away by it that I started working with it from that day onwards. I was so fascinated that I used to use it on my clients just to find out whether they could experience what I experienced. I soon found out that the experience after a healing session, which is called energy healing, or I call my work pure energy healing, and that is basically to attune to their energy and see what's happening to their life force. That normally gave me an indication of what's happening to the physical body and their emotional traumas. And at times we could clear that away, and sometimes we cleared it away for a day, an hour, a week, a year, and sometimes forever. In the process of that healing, something happens, something so profound that, again, there are no words. Inner peace is one of the most common words used when your client gets up. But it's the in-between that I'm interested in today, not what happens when they get up, but what happens in between. So how I started with this was I used to use Moldavite in the palms of people's hands when they would lie down and ask them to just hold the Moldavite in their hand. It progressed slowly but surely onto certain parts of the body. And then one particular place where it really made an impact, but the hand was equally as important, but it was the third eye. They call this area the third eye, where obviously there's something happening up there where your intuition is. Some people call it the alpha mode, or the alpha muscle. Some people call it the pineal gland. It's visible, it's there. You can see it under a CAT scan, and it kind of looks like the Buddha's head, and that is the pine cone, and there's something in that. So just think about that for healing. It's incredible. So when placed, the Moldavite, whether it's a tiny slice under a gram, or whether it's a slightly bigger piece, or whether it's a beautiful piece of Besanice, hedgehog, it's all the same. Just place it there and you start the work. It's that simple. Energy work starts, and as a pure energy healer myself, I explain to practitioners that when your client falls asleep and you hear the snoring, that means you're doing an excellent job. And the reason why is because you only fall asleep when you feel comfortable, when you feel at ease, and when you trust your practitioner who's working on you. So that's a great sign. But in between that time, when they're falling asleep, certain things can happen. The mind's switched off because they're now going into sleep, so something can take over. And that is what I believe the connection between the spirit, which wakens up, to whatever you're working with, whatever energy you're working with. So whether it's the energy of pure energy healing, whether it's universal energy, whether it's spirit's energy, whether it's crystal energy, something always happens. But this phenomena only happens with Moldavite. So I remember starting work on, and I always use reference to one gentleman, very tall gentleman, very strong, very powerful. No bullshit, just get on with it, and he walks out of the door. That's it, and he feels better. There's no hairy-fairy, no hocus pocus. He just wants to feel a bit better. And after the sleep, he always feels better. One particular day he came for a healing session, I decided to use a piece of Moldavite on his third eye. As I laid the Moldavite on his third eye, instantly he went into a kind of reaction. So this was kind of slightly different from most people. So I noticed his reaction was far more stronger than most other people's reaction. I noticed with his eyes closed, his eyeballs were rolling, moving many different directions. That is an indication for most healers who understand this, who do the work, that there's something happening as a spiritual manifestation of something unusual, whether it's colors, whether it's patterns, whether it's symbols, whether it's faces. Something is happening so they can see. So that's normally a good sign. Secondly, you normally see the zzz, zzz of the eyelids, zzz, zzz, really fast. Again, that is a great indication of energy being blasted through the body. So it's zzz, and you can't explain why, but it's again something that we see as healers, and that's another good sign. So this is already starting to be a great healing session. So he's lying down, comfortable on the bed, and drifting into a sleep. I'm at the back of him with my hand, or maybe two hands, on the crown, and maybe around the sides. And after maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, all of a sudden, something starts to occur. And this is a common theme with Moldavite in this particular subject. When I say common, I don't mean everybody, but the people that do experience this is the common pattern. So all of a sudden, there's a kind of falling into a deep sleep, and then the chest starts to expand. and you can see it expand, and it's like it's an unusual breath. It's like something's happening in his chest, and you can't really figure out what it is. And then all of a sudden it moves to the upper throat and then the mouth itself. And the breathing starts. So the mouth opens and the breath comes out. But as it comes out each time, as the minutes go by, it becomes aggressive. So it's and you can see them lying down, and this breath is coming out, and it's like they're exhaling something that they want to clear from their body. As this happens, you now know you're going into a state of the Moldavite working its magic, and this is where it becomes extremely interesting. Now, as a healer, we often see people fall asleep, and sometimes they'll talk in their sleep. That again is a normal thing. And if you're from Spain, you'll speak Spanish. If you're from Italy, you'll speak Italian. If you're from the UK, you'll speak English. Or if you're American, you'll talk American. That's kind of normal. So sometimes you talk in your sleep. No problem. Sometimes we listen and hear, and sometimes we get information from that, and sometimes we get gobbledygook. Means nothing. So now we've got the piece of Moldavite. This giant of a man is now breathing heavy. What comes next is something so fascinating that it had me stunned all these years till this day. This man, who is from Europe, started speaking, but as all our clients would speak their language, he's now speaking something completely different, something that is unrecognizable. And I've said this before, only a few times, but there's been times that I've placed my head close to him trying to hear the language, because sometimes it's not as powerful as we'd want it. It's kind of a frequency which is very faint but recognizable. And as you recognize it, you're trying to distinguish whether it's a language that is something that you've never heard of. So I'm trying to understand the wording, which is very unusual too, because the wording doesn't sound like a normal word language, and it comes with different frequencies, and the pitch and the tone is intermittent. It's never the same. It's very strange. So as I'm trying to understand this, and I'll go back to this particular moment, when the client leaves, I take that information and I start to study language. I start to listen to different languages, Hebrew, ancient text that then converts into a language, and I'm listening to lots of different languages. Nothing ever came anywhere near this conversation. So what I realized after hearing this over the years, over the at least 10 years of that period, 3 or 4 people with the same language, I realized that there's something in this language and there's a message. And here's where I don't want to go too deep because I don't want to spoil the book. However, I'd like to share this with you because maybe you guys might understand what I'm saying if you've ever, if you are a practitioner and this has ever happened to you. I think to begin with, when it first happened, I was so taken back that the last thing I was thinking about is what the message was. But as time went on, I became so used to it with certain clients that I wanted to study it more and listen to it more and try and understand what this connection is, but more importantly, what was the message. And with any language, spiritual frequency, vibration, energy is universal. It doesn't have a language. It's everybody understands it if you work with it. So you understand what this vibration is after a while. So as I place my Moldavite on, I'll move on to a beautiful lady who was in her 50s. She actually started very quickly and started this blowing and then started this conversation. At this point, I decided to try and attune and to understand what this was. So over the years, I've kind of come to understand that, looking back and being very blessed to be in this particular moment and experience. what I kind of gathered was Moldavite has, I'm putting this into a nutshell, I'm summarizing. Moldavite, when you are attuned to it, is, in my opinion, the only crystal that holds a connection to a certain frequency in the cosmos, a certain memory that is trying to share with us something to help humanity. So when people say to me, why do you say to the world, why do you keep telling the world that if everybody had a piece of Moldavite, the world would change in a day? I think the reason why I say that is because I've seen and experienced this Moldavite language, and I've attuned to it, and I understand what it is. And it is a cry for help, almost. But the help isn't for the extraterrestrial message, but it's for us. It's a message to warn us what could happen to us, what happened to those very people that lived on the Moldavite. You see, what I've come to understand is that it wasn't just a meteorite, it was actually a living planet with unbelievable energy and frequency. And something happened to that planet and those who lived on it. And the memory that is within Moldavite, it is trying to tell us, warn us, and give us information of what not to do in this world. And I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to go into any more detail, but I just feel that if you have a piece of Moldavite and it's genuine, then maybe you might begin today to try and understand that frequency of Moldavite and understand its memory, and try to translate that memory into words. And I would be really interested, and I mean this with my hand on my heart, I would be really, really interested to hear if any practitioner out there has ever come across this phenomena that I've come across. And I'd also be really interested in you, if you're not a practitioner, but you are somebody who has gifts, and that those gifts are able to sit down and just be at peace and to hold your Moldavite and see if you can attune to the frequency of that and feel the extraterrestrial message that comes with Moldavite, because I'm fascinated to hear your take and what you're feeling when you hold it. And is there a message in there? And do you feel it? And can you attune to it? And if you can, please write it down. So that's my understanding of this amazing moment that I was lucky enough to be part of with my clients. You may ask, how did your clients feel afterwards? It's a very hazy and very kind of dream that you've forgotten energy with those that went through that particular moment. So it was very frustrating for me because they knew that they'd experienced something, but they didn't know what, and they couldn't explain it. That's what I know. Have I ever filmed it? I have a lot of respect for my clients. Have I ever wanted to film that? Yes, I have, but I never did, because integrity means everything. And when you're working with clients, it's important that you keep this all to yourself. And I think that's what makes a good practitioner. When I speak of this out of this gentleman, that gentleman, but never the name. There were times that I was really lucky, embarrassed, but really lucky, and said to my client, would it be okay if I wrote a book and put you in it? And they said yes. So that was really beautiful, and that was a blessing. Maybe you're looking at me now thinking this is all crazy. Maybe it is. Maybe it is crazy. But all I can tell you is what I've experienced. And nobody can take that away. Maybe it was coincidence that the 3 or 4 people, or maybe 5, who experienced that phenomena as the Moldavite was on them. Maybe it's coincidence. I'm open to anything and suggestion, but I find it fascinating, and it would be great one day to have this. It would be great to hear if somebody else has experienced this, because you realise then you're not crazy, and this is part of the journey, and maybe, just maybe, Moldavite is here to help save the world in so many ways. Who knows? Anyway, as you all know, I went to the Czech Republic the last time, which was a couple of years ago. While I was there, you all saw me on the videos talking and looking for Moldavite, enjoying myself and being blessed to get taken around with one of the most amazing men who as a kid used to pick up Moldavite and grew up to be a dealer in the end that I've always dealt with. So he works with Moldavite every day. And he took me around to some of the most beautiful sites, and just to be on the ground, not to dig, but just to be on the Mother Earth where the most beautiful Besanice hedgehogs are. And you could feel it. It was incredible. And I've often said to you that the energy of the trees around one particular field, all the trees were leaning in towards the Moldavite. That was fascinating to me. I was like so blown away, and the energy was like a portal. It was incredible. I just, like, my hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I just felt amazing. And you saw me, I took a video and showed you. It was just utter peace and tranquility. It was incredible. So while I was there, I made a big purchase. I gambled, and like I've told you before, I remortgaged my house to buy Moldavite. And one of those pieces of Moldavite is here, right here. And it's one of very few pieces in the world that are actually perfect. There's not a mark on it at all, which means it's museum grade. And it's from Besanice, and it's from one of these beautiful fields. So it's been dug out from one of these fields, and every single hedgehog, every point is perfect. There's not a mark on it under a microscope. It's mint. That's why it's so beautiful. Let me show it you properly. So this is a rare specimen. So because I am who I am, this is going to go into somebody's hand one day. So by the end of the month, if you've made a purchase of any crystal at all on markbajerski.com, at the end of the month, your name is going to be put into a draw, and I'm going to pull out the winner of this unique hedgehog from Besanice. So I want to say good luck. It's incredible. Just touching it, you can just instantly feel your stomach starts to do somersaults, your heart, your chest starts to expand, and it's like you feel this energy of breathing in and out. It's just incredible. Moldavite never ceases to amaze me. So there you go, guys. I'll leave it there. I hope you enjoyed this little workshop, this discussion, my experience of Moldavite. Maybe I am crazy, but maybe, just maybe, some other practitioner out there may have done this and experienced it too. I hope you enjoyed this little chat. You're all in my heart. Love you all. And again, thank you for going to markbajerski.com and buying your authentic Moldavites and crystals that I've chosen, handpicked and worked on myself. I hope you love them as much as I loved working with them. And good luck. Good luck. It might just be you. Okay, guys, link below. Take care.